I think, for instance, Salah grafts like nothing on earth last half an hour against Everton in the derby. We're ahead. It's gone 2-0, it's going 2-1. No one's playing that well. We've had a big week, everyone's shattered, and Salah throws in a big performance in front, protects his full-back and fights to protect the lead. I think that when we're not ahead in these games, and I think you see it in that one against Chelsea, Salah's thinking, I've got to do something here. I've got to fix this. But I think there's a thing with that with Van Dijk. Van Dijk, charging round yesterday, I thought his first half was mad. And this is where, for me, and there's a thing that can happen sometimes, where Liverpool weren't playing that well after the derby, but they obviously got the wins that were on the board at that point. But what can happen is, in the efforts to fix things, at times, if you're not careful, other people you can play everyone out of form. In the efforts we need to get McAllister sorted out, but all of a sudden now, Kirk has got no one to pass to because McAllister. Do you know, I'm watching them at the minute, and where I get most concerned with the football team is when I think everyone erodes everyone else out of form. And that's sort of what's happened with this Liverpool side now. You feel like Van Dijk's a good example of it. Van Dijk looked imperious up until the final whistle against Everton. And now, after what's gone on against Palace and so on, it feels like Van Dijk's played himself out. Ekitike with the mad second yellow. Feels like Ekitike's just sort of got himself a teeny little bit off the boil. He's trying to integrate Isak, but it's not working there for another area. So all the players have got themselves a little bit off the boil. Salah's just got worse and worse and worse through these games. That's why it is, I started this off by saying, it does feel like a bit of a crisis at this point, because it feels as though the thing that you always think fixes football is his games and opportunities to go and put it right. And at the minute, if even somehow yesterday Gakpo managed to be constantly involved in the game, score and equalise and a big goal, hit the woodwork 3 times, and everyone's coming out the ground saying, fucking hell, Gakpo's annoying.
Yeah.
This is where football teams, they have this sandpaper effect. And when everything flows, it feels great. But at the minute, it just feels like this all the time.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think on the Ekitike thing, no. I mean, I think when he came on, he looked pretty lively.
I think he looked bright. No.
I mean, I thought he's one where you go back to the point before where I think he's probably just scratching his head a little bit and thinking, I should be starting games here.
On that, Paul,
you can tell he believes he should be
starting games.
But on that, Paul, I think that one of the things that happens if you look at the subs and then look at what happens at around the 60-minute mark with Kerkez as well, is that all of a sudden Liverpool have got lads who are happy to carry the ball. Jones was delighted to carry the ball into space. Wirtz wants to carry the ball. He wants to be moving forward with the ball. Chiesa, when Chiesa comes on, he wants to carry the ball. Kerkez wants to carry the ball. Ekitike wants to carry the ball. And suddenly that's, I think, part of what sparked Liverpool into being able to find that gear and get that equaliser. But then the way that reflects on the players before that point, it's like no one wanted to drive at Manchester United and there was so much space to do it.
And especially in the first half after the goal, it was doing my head in a little bit. It seemed, I said to Andy, have these been told to stick to the game plan here and carry on playing as if it's 0-0? Because when that goal went in, I wanted to see Liverpool instantly react and start playing like there's 5 minutes left and get that game back level. And they just kept slowing it down. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I was screaming in the ground at that. I'm sick of seeing Liverpool let the other team get the shape back. Van Dijk will get the ball, and it's just like...
It's because we're used to the old Liverpool who just go, like the Red Arrows, go full pelt at it. Is that what it is?
I thought for a moment in the second half, we seen them Red Arrows. There was about 6, we were on counter-attack, there's 6 or 7 lads flying forward. But it is, as you say, Neil, after he's made the changes. But what I do feel is that there's a little bit of lack of intelligence on the pitch at the moment, and you introduce Curtis Jones and you introduce Florian Wirtz, and all of a sudden Liverpool can put the foot on the ball, but in the correct way, in a positive, we're going to make a move from this. Wirtz get the ball on the right-hand side yesterday, and he's looked up, and there's a game in front of him, rather than this just desperate need to try something, or reset your shape, and get Kerkers on an underlap, and what you're saying, the manager's like, well, that's plan A. It's plan A or plan A.
It seemed as if it was like nothing changes because that goal's gone in. We just carry on playing our game and we'll control the match, but we weren't controlling anything.
Man United's games change because they've scored the early goal, so you have to adjust to that. And for all the things we'll say about Man United being a poor team or whatever, Amarin's got them set up in his way, and he's took a lot of criticism, but their idea again is clear. This is how we play. But in a rare instance, they've took the lead and they've been able to bed in a little bit and like, all right, lads, this is how it looks. We've been coached in one way. You don't have to go and chase the game. Let these divvies go and chase it. And Liverpool just look devoid of ideas at a lot of the time.
Looked a bit toothless.
In the first half, there's this problem that happens for a manager in these scenarios. I'm saying again about people playing themselves out of form and all of that, Ian, which is that obviously questions begin to sort of abound around selection and recruitment. You know, there was a lot of people who were very, very happy with Liverpool's busyness over the course of the summer. I was happy with much of it, and I'll come back to bang on the drum if I wouldn't actually have minded a little bit more. I still think Liverpool look one if the manager's not prepared to start Chiesa in a proper football match, which he just does not seem to be, then Liverpool to me just sort of still look one option down. But that said, if you have options and you don't win, people will discuss your options. The manager's going to be asked a few questions in his press conference this week before the Frankfurt game. You know, this is now controversial in a way. You know, why are you picking him and not picking him? Why are you picking him and not picking him? Saying before about people knocking on the manager's door and saying, why is he getting picked and not me? If you don't win and you've got all these players and all this money, you've paid all this money for, they are going to be within the right to knock on your door and be going, well, I think I'm playing all right. And that's his internal problem. But he's got an external problem now as well, that this is what everyone's discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, he'll have to manage that dressing room. And listen, you know, you'd fancy there's enough strong characters in there just to maybe make sure it doesn't spill over in a bad way. But, you know, you want harmony. And I think sometimes, you know, I talked on Friday about a meritocracy, and I think you do want to see that more often than not. And I just think he has just got one or two things wrong, but he's maybe just thinking about what players have given maybe 6-7 months ago, and he's thinking, well, at some point it will click. Well, it might not, and it hasn't so far. So you've just got to kind of play your best hand right now. And I think he's leaving some of those lads out to our detriment. And it is people like Ekitike, it is people like Chiesa, it is people like Vert. So you think, well, when you saw them come on, there was an energy, there was, again, it's back to the basics thing, but you've hardly seen anyone put a challenge in. It's a Liverpool-Manchester United game. Without sounding like Roy Keane, you expect a little bit of blood and thunder. You know, I'm watching Mason Mount do that. It's Mason Mount who's been, you know, hampered by injuries, and he's going into Conor Bradley in minute one, looking like, hang on, there's a game of football happening here, boys. And you didn't get a sense of that from Liverpool at all, which is, you know, again, you're looking at them and thinking, well, what's happening there? You know, on the back of 3 defeats, you did be busting a gut to come out and just lay one on someone, albeit you can't quite do it like you maybe could 10, 15 years ago, but get that. But you can make a fair, hard challenge, you know.
Still fight,
I like
see some fight.
Conor Bradley against Real Madrid, that just gets everyone on the, on the edge a little bit.